Hello, so I was at a kind of a Bruce Springsteen concert a few weeks ago, and what I noticed is that the music was very nice to listen to, but was also kind of a bit hellish in the sense it was kind of too good to be true. And I couldn't really describe the sensation, but it was probably in comparison to classical music, when you have the saxophones and the keyboards, they just produce a very unusual sound. So part of the reason might be to do with kind of the fact that mathematics isn't fully viewed as kind of pop music, because when you think of, there's lots of theories about maths in classical music in terms of the piano, but it's also the case that it might be kind of chaotically in pop music, and so in a way that's kind of unconscious, because the patterns are kind of much more kind of imprecise, but it's kind of all about how relaxed you could be about that amount of mathematics. So this is kind of one program about the Fibonacci sequence in piano. You can see how, of course, that's a very kind of conscious kind of perception. So you can see there's kind of a much more unconscious way to kind of relate the musical patterns together. So I also noticed when I listened to David Guetta and his Memory song, I noticed that it's an extremely good song, but it almost kind of felt paranormal in a way that I could never make sense of. And part of the reason is that there are so many kind of synthetic beats to it that it's not always consciously apparent. So of course, we don't always notice kind of what David Guetta is when you think of kind of a keyboard player, but he's almost more like, when he's a DJ, he's almost more like a computer technician. When you think of all the sine functions and cosine functions you could add into the music.
It's very simple. If I open oscillator A, it's that plus 4 semitones. And that's it.
So you can see that it's kind of a very kind of original kind of beat, but it kind of synthesizes maybe hundreds of different kind of versions of pop songs that you don't always know exactly what type of music you're absorbing. So we see how complicated the maths is. That's the Memory song again. So I suppose when we think of kind of dreaming, you can think of the beats as kind of as time slowing down in a dream, or time fast forwarding in a dream, and that's why this can be kind of mimicked in kind of pop music sometimes, with this kind of time dilation in certain songs. As you can see, I almost notice with kind of the microphone effect that the singer's voice is almost kind of almost slowed down a bit, as could be kind of dreamy. So when we think of dreaming and the hard problem of consciousness, it's possible that we don't always take things at face value. So we don't always think of it as mathematical. So when you think of a chocolate bar, it has kind of one third kind of milk, one third kind of cocoa, and there's a lot of 2/3 milk almost. Of course, there's sugar and different things in it. And we ask, well, why is a chocolate bar hedonistic? It's possible that when you think of milk, that we don't think milk is very hedonistic because we're not always thirsty. But of course, when we add milk to muesli, muesli is a bit like the cocoa beans and chocolate, and so we don't think muesli is very hedonistic either. But why is that? It's because we don't always add the milk in a perfect proportion to the muesli. It's not always in a kind of a perfect ratio. So what the muesli is doing is kind of makes you thirsty. All the nuts will make you thirsty. When you're thirsty, you'll appreciate the milk much more. So of course when you add milk to a coffee, you could almost say the same thing, that it's not so much the coffee is making you more alert, but it's the way you interpret the milk is making you more alert, because there's no limit to how much you can interpret the milk. Because what's milk doing? It's technically making your bones stronger with calcium, and so if you're very sleepy one day, you could drink a glass of milk and say you're much more alert without even adding coffee into it, simply because your skeleton is technically stronger. But we would never really think of it that way, and that's why a whole pile of sweets don't always make sense as to how they're hedonistic when the healthy food doesn't appear hedonistic. But it's all about the ratios that is so refined we don't always cop onto. So I suppose when we think of dreaming and of lucid dreaming, one idea might be that you're never actually as nice as a person as you are in a lucid dream. So when you think of a ghost in the machine, well, what would you mean if you could just wake up and say you're a ghost? And the problem is, no one might care that you're a ghost if everyone else is also a ghost. And so it's a lot about kind of humility. So in a lucid dream, perhaps, if you have a dream of the uncanny valley, so to speak, that it's telling you that you can like the dream, but you don't have to love the dream. When you don't love the dream, that's a manifestation of free won't. And so it's telling you that you're just not as nice as that lucid dream. So when you wake up, you're capable of downplaying of the perception of the lucid dream. And so that's why a lot of our unconscious mind doesn't always make sense, but it can explain kind of the hedonism of certain perceptions. So of course, so we think of time travel in a dream, slowing down in a dream. We also think of kind of the encryption perception of a dream, where a whole pile of content, of dream content is mixed up. It's mixed up in a way that's chaotic, but of course when we think of chaos theory, it's also kind of mathematical. So when you think of a pop song, you can also what will I say? You can think of it in terms of oh yes, the song reminded me what I was going to say. It's kind of like a calculus lesson. So you often thought that calculus would never come in handy after secondary school, but of course, what is calculus? It's kind of just finding the average values of certain functions. And so when you think of a pop song like this, you can see the average values of certain sound waves mixed into the song, because of course, when you think of the electronic instruments, it's all about quantum mechanics. So I labelled that G-string theory for self-deprecation. Thank you.